Last weekend's trip to Anaheim provided some of the wildest racing we have seen in an opening weekend, but of course with that left a lot of carnage and guys on the ground. Thanks for tuning in to another RotoMoto injury update brought to you by the good people at O'Neill. If you want a shot to win an official sublimated Colt Nichols jersey just like the one that he wore at A1, consider joining me over on Patreon for just about $5. I have a grand total of 11 riders to talk about that went down hard, and I will not bury the lead. Austin Forkner was one of the hottest topics of the night with his incredibly gnarly get-off in the opening seconds of the 250 main event. Unfortunately, the media is getting some mixed signals from Feld to start the season, so I'm going to refrain from using any broadcast footage of the crash, but I did do a full breakdown on our A1 post-race live show. You can check that out instead. Link for that will be in the description below. The full list of injuries is long, so I will go ahead and let Austin himself tell you.
It's ACL tear, full thickness ACL tear, lateral meniscus tear with displaced flap, posterior lateral tibial plateau, non-disc breast fracture. So like the top of my tib fib, the top of that's cracked, I guess. Medial meniscus tear, MCL sprain, and grade 2 PCL injury. So I mean, not completely destroyed, but it's ACL, and anything other than ACL, I mean, ACL is the long one that's 6 months or whatever. All the other stuff is just, you know, extras that they'll fix when they're in there. Oh, and I have a break in my hand also. It's right there, it's just a little bone in my wrist.
Obviously, 6 months is a long time in the sport, and that likely means shelving Forkner for the remainder of 2023, but there is still hope. With Jet moving up to the big bikes outdoors and wanting to stay there for the SMX3 race finale, there is a big void left in that class to fill, and it could be right for Austin's picking. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if we see him line up somewhere around Redbud to collect enough points to slip into the finale's top 20 cutoff, or at least try to race in for one of those last spots in the night show and become the Super Motocross world champion. Malcolm Stewart was next on the talking list after the Rockstar Husqvarna rider inherited the lead after an untimely Tomac crash before having a very scary crash of his own just a few minutes later. He did remount the bike and he did re-enter the action, but the post-race results showed him in 22nd despite his efforts. The AMA updated those results on Tuesday to score Malcolm in 16th instead, citing the crash as knocking off his transponder and leading to the error in scoring, meaning that his remount was not in vain. Malcolm updated after the race saying, "Unfortunately, we did have a crash with 3 laps to go. It was a big crash for sure. I'm glad that I'm healthy and walked away from it, so we lived to fight another day, and I am more proud of myself because of how my day was going and me turning it around and going like that. Doing what I'm supposed to do just brings more confidence for me. I am looking forward to Oakland." So obviously Malcolm is good to go with an extra week off heading into San Diego. Pierce Brown was the first factory rider of the night to hit the deck in just the second turn of his 250 heat race, was transported off the floor by the medical crew, and that was the last we saw of Pierce for the night. TLD Gas put out a presser Sunday morning reading, "Pierce Brown started off the day on the gas, qualifying in the 3rd position, but a hard crash in his heat race proved to be the end of his evening. After being seen by the Alpine Stars mobile medical crew, he was transported to a local hospital for further evaluation. The good news is that he's already been released and is headed home." Further, Racer X's Kellen Brower was able to speak to team manager Max Lee and was told that Pierce wasn't dealing with anything broken, but he does have a contusion on his tailbone, which is very uncomfortable and will make riding very difficult. He should be fine in the long term, but his status for Oakland is doubtful. He should be fine in the long term, but his status for San Diego is still a little cloudy, but I expect to see him line up. In that very same heat race that claimed Pierce Brown, Australian rookie of the Firepower Honda team Wilson Todd suffered from wrong place, wrong time after he was slammed hard from the side by privateer Hunter Schlosser, losing balance in the whoop section that begins down that start straight. Wilson posted an update himself, but without many details. Ultimately, he said this week he'll be, quote, "getting a tune-up and be ready to race again." On Wednesday the 18th, he made a further update on Instagram with the caption, "San Diego coming up," seemingly indicating that he is going to be good to go for this weekend. Speaking of the Firepower Honda squad, a quick little update on his teammate Max Anstey, who was expected to race this weekend, but was a last last-minute scratch Saturday morning. It seems that Max tweaked his back in the days leading up to A1, and although it does not seem like a serious injury, it seems like Max and the team have lofty goals for the England native and would rather have him at 100% on the East. A few Privateer Warrior updates on the weekend as well. Benny Bloss was riding well in the second 450 heat, fighting for a transfer spot when he went down hard and was unable to line up for the LCQ. He posted an Instagram story Sunday evening that he was still in the hospital with his massive frame causing his feet to dangle off the end of the standard issue hospital bed before going radio silent for over a week. But he finally gave us an update yesterday indicating that he will not race San Diego.
What's up, guys? Thought I'd provide an update. Haven't said much since Anaheim. Had a crash in the heat race in the whoops. Ended up having a tailbone injury, which has been absolutely brutal. Tried to ride my dirt bike today. Was pretty stiff and pretty painful. So we've decided not to race San Diego this weekend. I'm going to give it a few more days rest and then try to ride some Supercross next week. And looking to be back for A2. Just trying to get back as soon as possible, but I want to thank everyone who supports me, my team, my sponsors, just everyone who's been there for me. Thank you guys, and hopefully get back on the track soon.
Number 138, David Poley had a gnarly get-off in practice that left him with a long list of injuries, including a broken sternum and a fractured rib, but luckily no displacement, so he's looking at a 4 to 6 week turnaround time. An orthopedic appointment this week went well as his knee was given the all clear, but he did strain his left ACL, PCL, and MCL that will also require strengthening therapy. Also of note, McClellan Heil did have an issue in practice that kept him out of action for the night show at A1, but no updates have been made public, so it's unclear what issues there may have been. It is worth noting that as of Thursday morning, he is not on the entry list for San Diego. Luis Macias of the Just One Somnium Racing Privateer Paddock squad posted an update at the tail end of last week explaining a practice crash taking him out before the night show in Anaheim, saying, "After my crash at A1 Supercross, I suffered multiple broken ribs, lacerated lung, and pneumothorax. Thankfully, no surgery was necessary for the recovery. Breathing and getting up from bed is a struggle, but slowly feeling better and soon get back to training." Another blow to the Pro Circuit squad with Ryder DiFrancesco confirming reports of a practice crash that will cause him to miss significant time early this year. Ryder at first thought his thumb was just jammed, but it turns out that he pulled the ligament from the bone, but was able to get in for surgery immediately, and it has already been repaired. If you remember in 2022, Dylan Ferrandis had a crash during press day of the opening round of the Pro Motocross Series that saw him suffer a broken ligament in his thumb. He was off the bike for 6 weeks, but didn't return to racing until the 11-week mark, so I wouldn't expect to see Ryder D back on the bike until round 8 at Daytona, although don't forget that Ryder was not announced to be racing Supercross professionally in 2023, but he is still eligible to race Supercross Futures, so it's possible we could see him line up there for round 12 in Glendale or round 14 in East Rutherford so that he can qualify for the Supercross Futures finale in Salt Lake. An unconfirmed report, but Direct Motocross on Twitter mentioned Wednesday that Marvin Musquin took an awkward fall practicing and left the track early, favoring his left wrist. Thursday morning, PulpMX's Steve Mathis corroborated the report, adding that Marv is likely to miss San Diego and possibly even more rounds. We'll keep you updated on that front as information comes available. And finally, an off-season injured rider update. Carson Mumford had a gnarly get-off resulting in a wrist injury in late November and was set to return on the East Coast with the Bar X Suzuki squad, but with Forkner and Ryder D going down, Mitch at Pro Circuit worked some magic and is actually pulling Carson Mumford to the factory Kawasaki squad. Carson returned to riding this week with early reports indicating that Mumford could join the series in February with the rescheduled Oakland round. Any updates I receive after the video goes live will be added to the pinned comment at the top, but of course also be sure to check out RacerX's injury report that should be up on the site Friday for all final information before we get to San Diego. Be sure to leave some kind words of encouragement to the riders in the comments. You'd be surprised how many of those guys, especially the privateers, read through them on here. Thanks as always for tuning into RotoMoto. My name is Donnie. Keep it pinned to the weekend.